I heard there was one particular guy who came off saying it was the most difficult thing he'd ever played and it was too hard to be a real game. But I also heard there was a race car driver there, and he said it was the most realistic thing he'd ever done outside of a racetrack. So that probably gives you the spectrum of the kind of people that are going to really, really love this game.
It's been available on PC for a while now, but Italian-developed racing sim Assetto Corsa has just hit consoles, and it brings a much-needed breath of fresh air to both Xbox One and PlayStation 4. If you love arcade racing, that subtle rubber banding that keeps you not too far from the front of the pack, that AI that's easily pushed past as you take the racing line, and those simple controls that put all the power right at your fingertips, Assetto Corsa is not for you.
The word that everybody seems to use is unforgiving. If you love race cars, if you look real race cars, real racing, this is the kind of game you're going to love. It's not the kind of game that you would have played in an arcade growing up. This is a game for people who are fanatical about cars, who know the difference in the suspension, the difference in the brake setups and stuff like that. It's a game for fanatics, made by fanatics.
Assetto Corsa is a proper, serious racing simulator. It's not just difficult to master, it's pretty challenging to pick up to start with. We spent some time with the game and struggled to get results much better than 7th place in a field of 10, and that's after more than a few races that saw us stuck at the back of the pack. But slowly, as we got more familiar with the car, the controls, and more importantly, the track, we started making better lap times and even pulling off a couple of overtaking manoeuvres. The attention to detail here is staggering. Not only does each car play differently, but there's a noticeable difference with driving the same car with different tyres. Make a subtle change to your vehicle and you'll see a significant change in your lap times.
Kunos are a really small team based on the Villalonga track in Rome. There's maybe less than 20 guys working there, and they're dedicated to making the most realistic reproduction of the greatest racetracks in the world. Kunos goes way back in developing race car software, so they're not just games makers. Games makers is almost a hobby. They're based in Villalonga because they actually are all about real race cars, real racetracks. The tracks in the game are all laser scanned, so the whole purpose of the simulation is to give the most accurate representation. And that's basically where the guys come from. They're not a big video games team, they're a very small race car team.
Assetto Corsa is split into 3 parts: Quick Drive, Career Mode, and what Kunos calls special events. Quick Drive is pretty much what you'd expect. Pick a car, pick a track, pick a time of day, and you're off. This can be a great way to try out different manufacturers, vehicles, and locations without making any serious commitment. But if you want commitment, then Career Mode is for you. You'll have to win a certain number of medals in order to progress through challenges in the Novice, Intermediate, and Expert categories. It's incredibly satisfying, but the races and challenges can get a bit samey after a while, and it would be great if there was a little more variety. But then there's special events. This is the sort of thing where you're given a certain track and a certain car and you're asked to achieve a certain goal. These can get addictive, particularly for perfectionists.
At the moment there are about 90 cars. Each car is customizable, but from launch we'll have 90 cars and further updates as time goes on.
The game blends the risks and rewards of real-world racing into one nifty package. This is a completely different breed to all the other motorsports games on the market. Racing in Assetto Corsa is perhaps the closest thing to real racing that we've found in a video game. But obviously, because real racing isn't performed with a DualShock controller, this one is much better if you're playing with a steering wheel setup. But even if you don't have one, you can still have great fun. And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, we look at something a little bit different from Don't Nod, the studio behind Life is Strange. Their new one is called Vampire, and it's about a vampire doctor coming to terms with his undead condition. That, plus a celebration of 20 years of one of the greatest ladies in gaming, Lara Croft, and you're in for a treat. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Also, if you want to support Player Attack, you can find us on Patreon and help us bring you the latest in gaming news, plus all these wonderful interviews and reviews from the world of video games. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.